I recently went to engage in one of my favorite hobbies, grocery shopping. And I was amazed to see the sheer number of D2C consumer brands that have come up in India. But they all look the same, peppy, organic, and I could barely differentiate. So I thought, what is it that the new age consumer founders should learn from the FMCG giants about building a business for the Indian consumer? And to do that, I decided to meet with Shiv. He's been the MD and CEO of not just PepsiCo India, but also Nokia. He has decades of experience working with Aditya Birla, HUL and Philips, and has a unique take on how new age founders should build a consumer business for the country. Join me in this episode of Founders Office with Sarthak Ahuja. Firstly, I just want to understand from you that do you think to build a consumer brand for a bootstrapped founder today, which we popularly call D2C, is a good business to get into, or there is better utilization of their time?
I think it's a good business to get into because there's enormous opportunity here. But you have to know if you're serving a genuine need.
So if you think in terms of white spaces in the consumer space right now, what according to you in say personal care, health, F&B, possibly the largest categories, according to you, what do you think is a great opportunity you would like to bet on?
Yeah, so if you look at any consumer product, it's a combination of two things. Do I have the purchasing power? Do I have the intention to buy? Both are important. There are a lot of rich people who have the purchasing power but don't have the intention to buy anything new, okay, or anything out of the ordinary. So if I look at India today, per capita consumption is about 2,000. Let's assume all the people who are above 5,000 per capita income. Okay? If you look at them, what are the big segments which will grow? If you look at India, number one, education has always been a sector where people will pay through their nose. Okay? Every parent wants his or her child educated in the best possible institution. The second one, I would say health. I think health and value-added health, services health is big. You look at the number of spas coming up across the country right now. Okay? You look at the number of leisure centers coming up across the country right now. You look at the number of personal trainers and what's happening there right now. So as you get wealthier, you want to keep your health because you don't want the lifestyle diseases to impact you. Okay, so what's the point in having wealth if I'm not able to take care of my body? That's the second big thing which is coming across. The third bigger thing which happens when you go up the income strata is what are personality products by which I can show the world that I have a right. Absolutely. A personality product is a phone. A personality product is a watch. A personality product is clothes. Okay. So you look at the absolute stunning success of Manyavar. Okay. All the traditional apparel companies, it was there for them to see. Nobody did it. Today, Manyavar's market cap is bigger than everybody else. They've created huge value. Okay. That also coincided with India going more nationalistic, like every other country has done. So I think beauty, I think wellness, I think education, and I think fashion and personality-led products, cars, etc., will always be at the higher end of the spectrum as you get richer.
Do you think there is a customer segment in India which you think is underserved? And across all consumer categories, if people were to start focusing on this new customer category, a lot can be done. When I say this, what comes first to my mind is possibly people who are above the age of 60 today. And everyone wants to, maybe in their attempt to be cool, wants to focus on the Gen Z and the millennials and whatnot. But there aren't too many products or services catering to the elderly. Do you think geriatrics and that space has a lot of white space to build in?
Yeah. So I would, that's a valid point. India has close to 150 million people above the age of 60. Okay, that's 2 times UK's population. Okay, so do we have products and services for them? The answer is no. Like, do we have wheelchairs? Do we have ramps in all the airports, all the malls? The answer is no. So is there a market for serving the more than 60? The answer is yes, with the right type of product services. For example, I saw Akshaya Senior Living Center in Chennai, very well organized. One of my friends, her mother is there. So she said, hey, Shiv, will you go and take a look at her? I went, I was pretty impressed with it. So I And where has this started? This started in Tamil Nadu because a lot of the people left Tamil Nadu in the 80s for America, the brain drain. Now, all those people, they are not able to take their parents into America because of healthcare cost reasons. So, they put them up in these wonderful places in Coimbatore, in Madurai, outside of Chennai, etc. And this is an absolutely flourishing business.
So what you're saying is just cater to people's insecurities, and that's your opportunity to build a product.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say cater to people's insecurities. Cater to what people want.
Coming back to white spaces, how do you think a company like Unilever or a Pepsi, all these consumer big giants that you worked with, what is their process to identify white spaces? Is it that a competitor has come up with a chai product and we should launch it too? Or at times you try and tap into innate needs that the consumer doesn't even know is a pain point, and does that ever go in, or these giants would not go into that direction?
Fair enough. So if you look at multinationals and the way multinationals look at this whole process, all multinationals come at it from a category lens. Okay, we are in the hair care business. Okay, so I've used shampoo to strip, the sebum and give you a clean hair. Can I give you a conditioner on top of it? Okay, if your hair turns gray, can I do a pre-gray product which does not turn it gray? Can I do a post-gray product where it turns it into a colorant? Okay, now that I've sold you a colorant, can I sell you a service which is how do I maintain that color? Okay, so everybody comes at it from a category and adjacencies. That's how they come at it. So if you look at over a period of time, a good thing is, okay, I have the same product format, I have the same product, the same category, can I deliver it in a new format? Like for example, toothpaste was once in a tub. That's why it's called cream, because you took it and applied it. Ooh. Okay, that's why it's called Colgate Dental Cream. Then came the aluminum tube, then came the plastic tube. That's how the innovations happened. Okay, today there's a company, I don't know based where, I wrote about them, Sarthak. You take a tablet, put it in your mouth and brush it. So the form factor can change.
It's really picked up globally, I
Absolutely. So the form factor can change. Okay, so that's how they look at it. Even within the multinationals, the two companies I have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for Procter, I have a lot of respect for L'Oreal. The reason I have a lot of respect for Procter and L'Oreal is they come from the product out. They say, do I have the best product? Their constant quest is to improve their product all the time. Okay, if I have product X, what is the ideal in this category from the consumer point of view? How can I improve it? That's their R&D, that's their focus. Companies like Unilever, companies like all the other companies, they come at it from a concept point of view. Okay, I have a white detergent. How do I tell consumers that it's the whitest? I might not necessarily be the whitest detergent, but can I wordsmith? Can I get great concepts out? So when you have an obsession with product, like a Procter or a L'Oreal or a Kao or Japanese companies, you also put the capability in line with that obsession. When you have an obsession with concept, then you bring in copywriters and the arts background and people who are smart with words, etc. Two different philosophies.
So what side would you put yourself on, regardless of whether you worked with Unilever or P&G?
I've always been a product guy. Okay? There is no substitute to selling a top quality product. No substitute whatsoever.
So, in today's day and age, when people talk about building D2C brands, one lesson that is oft repeated is first-time founders obsess over product, second-time founders obsess over distribution. And you can have a fabulous product, and a lot of times people get so enamored by what they've created and it's of such high quality that another product which is possibly substandard compared to this one but has much wider distribution ends up becoming the best seller. People know that as a standard. Because do you think people end up over-emphasizing on innovation and product, especially when it comes to consumer companies? When say you're selling something in personal care, how much differentiation beyond a point can you really add in terms of innovation? And a lot of innovation may not necessarily be unique to your company. Someone else can reverse engineer the product and launch it in better branding and marketing. Do you think so the distribution and marketing aspect today is possibly a differentiator or an edge for someone to win in consumer?
So innovation in the fast moving consumer goods is an overused, overexploited word. word. The reason I say that is, you look at any category, in FMCG, you tend to get 6 innovations in 100 years. 6 in 100 years. Let me explain. In toothpaste, originally it was in a tub, then it came in a tube, then it came in a plastic tube, then you had fluoride control, which is health, then you had tartar control, you had whitening, you had strips. Okay, that's all the innovation is.
And that's all just form factor and packaging.
It's 100 years, full stop. Let me take shampoo. Shampoo, you had flakes, you had water, you had separate shampoo, separate conditioner. Then Procter & Gamble came with Pert Plus, 1991, where they offered shampoo and conditioner into one bottle. Okay, that's the last big innovation. What have I seen in shampoos after that? Nothing. Okay, you look at any FMCG category, you get 6 innovations from 100 years. So their only hype all the time is varianting, new pack format, relaunch format, new fragrance format, new sensory, that's what it is. That's what they call innovation. Is that genuine innovation from a consumer point of view? No, it's variation. On the other hand, in technology, you get 6 innovations every year.
Correct.
In mobile phones, if you don't innovate, you die in a year. You die, full stop. Nothing carries you forward. So, you look at the innovations of 2006, okay? They were all about email. Okay, they are all about value-added services, SMS, this, etc. Today, all the innovation is about imaging. It's about software in camera.
That's what the consumer wants.
Absolutely, that's front and center. So, as somebody joked, recently one of these, comedians, he said, every phone now comes with Fair and Lovely inside it.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to look lovely when the picture is taken. So the battle today in innovation in mobile phones is in imaging. Where will that take us? I don't know. But you can see, I've just given you 15 years and see what's happened.
So would you say that from your experience, tying back to the idea of product versus distribution, do you think the moat today for a consumer company to win is in distribution or in something else?
Okay, so let's flip back and go back. If you go back 20 years, what are the 3 factors which made any FMCG company or brand successful? Okay, number 1 was branding, number 2 was distribution, and number 3 was negative working capital. 3 things. Because you had negative working capital, you spit out a lot more cash.
That's right.
And hence you are valuable to the stock market.
That's right.
Okay, as simple as that. Now, in distribution, raw stats, the number 3 player in any category does not have a market share of more than 10%. The number 3 player in any category in distribution terms has typically 40% of outlets distribution.
40% of?
Coverage, if there are 100 outlets in the category, he will be available in 40% of outlets. With D2C, what's happened? The first 2 advantages are gone.
You're saying the branding advantage is gone? And
completely. Today,
I was thinking the negative working capital advantage is no longer there because, today if a D2C brand realizes that customer acquisition cost online is so expensive, my only way is to build offline, build omni-channel, go down to the retail stores and the kirana stores. There's literally no way that negative working capital will exist either there or in modern trade because those people will say, you give us your stock for 6 months, if it doesn't sell, you take it all back and I'm not putting any money up front.
The way negative working capital works is, for FMCG companies, they sell their products, goods, services, etc. to a distributor. They typically get their money back within 6 to 14 days, maybe earlier also in some cases, like Levers might be collecting it.
For the bigger guys.
Absolutely. Whereas their supply ecosystem, they pay them in 45 to 60 days.
Correct.
That float is what gives them negative working capital. Okay. That will always continue. That will not go away. That advantage, I think, is a perpetual advantage for them.
So, if today a D2C founder wants to launch a new brand, what do you think they should focus on the most as the primary factor where they can find an edge? It used to be at one point listing on online marketplaces about 7 years ago, then moved to tapping on influencer marketing, which is the wave that the Mama Earths and the boats kind of rode on. Then it became listing on quick commerce. Do you think there's something that exists right now which is an opportunity that you try and tap on this and you can possibly grow better than your competition?
See, 2 things have happened, Sarthak. First is, thanks to e-commerce, thanks to social media, okay, thanks to Q-commerce, you are seeing the nichification of every single category. There is a lot of business to be made in niches if you can maximize niches. Okay? So you don't need to go mainstream. You don't need to go and bang your head against the 800-pound gorilla. You don't need to do it. Okay? You can build your own niches. So ask yourself in any category as a D2C player, what's the niche that I can build? And what's the scale of that niche that, what's the possible scale that it can take me to? It might take me to 500 crores. It might take me to 1,000 crores. That's fine. Okay? You don't need to become a 2,000 crore company doing everything which the big boys are doing because of their legacy. You don't need to do that at all. And I would say, keep your costs as low as possible. Don't get into fixed costs. Keep it completely variable. So employ a lot of e-commerce, employ a lot of Q-commerce. Okay? Outsource as much as you can. Okay? Come to a particular size and scale. Then you make up your mind whether you want to stay in the business, in the industry. You've done a journey for 3 to 5 years. You want to sell out. It's your call. So what are you building the business for is an important question that every D2C founder needs to ask.
Very interesting. You also mentioned certain benchmarks that the big giants follow while launching a brand, such as negative working capital. And you said that you have to keep or focus on keeping costs really low. So for a new consumer brand, is there an ideal unit economic that you would recommend they should focus on from a product cost perspective, packaging perspective, logistics perspective, distributor margin, retailer margin, which is kind of like you could say like a golden ratio of sorts, that you should not ideally be breaching this threshold?
So it's a difficult question. It's not an easy question. Okay, it depends on the category, depends on the thing, etc. 40% of FMCG is in the price points 50 paisa to 10 rupees.
What are you saying?
Yeah, 40%. That's how it's sold. The second is, in any business, there is an industry margin. Okay, so let's assume the industry margin in food is 30 to 40%. Industry margin in personal products is 50 to 60% gross margin. It's unlikely you'll get a margin higher than the industry if you cannot identify a good niche where people are willing to pay you for it. That at best might be another 5 to 10 percentage points, 500 basis to 1,000 basis points. It's not going to change it. So let's start with an FMCG product which has a 50% gross margin. Okay. Once you have a 50% gross margin, depending on the category, if you're in a personal product category, you need to spend 10 to 20% in advertising. Okay. If you're in the foods business, you might spend 5 to 8%. Okay. You have to remove that. You have to remove your G&A, general and admin expenses. Typically for a small company will be 8 to 10%, maybe 8 to 15%. You do that. Okay. You do all that, you're particularly left with nothing. So that's why we used to always say an FMCG brand must break even. Okay. A new brand in year 3 to 5, break even for the first time. And cumulative losses should be wiped out in between year 7 and 10. Okay. Now you're starting with a niche, you're starting with a D2C brand. I'm not sure that will work.
Because you'll also have to build a category, a product,
Absolutely
educate
right.
people.
Yeah.
Which means you're essentially saying that for a new D2C product to really break even, it might take 8 to 10 years.
So you're right, maybe. Let's go back and say, what's the size of a successful FMCG brand? In 2015, when Economic Times used to run that thing of list of most successful innovations, etc., that number was about 40 crores. So let's take 8 years have gone by, look at inflation, all the costs, etc. Maybe today 75 crores. So till you come to a 75 crore business with a 50% gross margin, it's unlikely you're making any money. Now you decide at what pace that will happen.
Correct.
And at what investment.
But then, do you think the outcome in a consumer business, because these days I also feel that the moment you have a product which is fast selling on say e-commerce, there are other bigger players with more cash, with more capital, will come in and say, okay, this product is doing well, let me also launch something in this category, try to compete with them on price or maybe something on branding for my niche, expand the market. But that means the moment you innovate and start serving a niche, anyway, if your business model does not make you profitable in 8 to 10 years, that means the moat in this business is really access to capital. Otherwise, don't get into building a consumer brand.
I won't say that. The moat in this business always is access to consumer emotional surplus in any business. If you don't have that, you'll never win. If you go back to the past, 15, 20 years ago, we would say a brand had loyalty. Now that I look back on it, I think that was wrong. And I'll be the first guy to say that my own theories were wrong or my
So
own
you're saying
understanding.
even in 15, 20 years, a brand has not been able to build loyalties?
I'll explain why. Maybe in the past, people are buying more out of habit because they had no choice. Today, with the plethora of choices I have, I don't need to buy it. So today, if you actually track brand loyalty, it's less than 50% in almost every category. So it's a lot of hit and miss which is going on right now. The biggest culprit of price-led strategies in India is the media, because media gets very excited by somebody dropping price. Okay, the fact is by dropping price, he's killing his company. Nobody recognizes that. For example, there was a chap called Akai. Okay, Kabir Mulchandani, I think was his name. He dropped prices dramatically in the consumer durable business, in the boombox, music systems, etc. He wound down. Bombay Dyeing is at a perpetual 15% discount for 25 years. Brand has gone nowhere. Okay, look at every single person who's fought on price, including Nirma. Today, Nirma has no standing in the market. He's gone into real estate. So the fact is, media gets excited by price. You look at telecom sector, all the people who fought on price are dead. Okay, everybody blames Jio, but the fact is, Jio fought on price with great technology, new technology, not price alone. So price as an element in the mix is most overused in India. Now, there are a number of reasons why it doesn't work. Because the retail trade in India works on rotation. It doesn't work on retained earnings.
Correct.
The way the retail trade works is, I buy today, can I sell tomorrow and rotate my money? You give him 20% and say you retain, he doesn't keep it. He cuts 18%, he keeps 2%. Because we come from a trading mentality. So just offering price discounts does not help you. Next theory, which is completely wrong, I believe. A lot of these guys were saying this brand has 4.5 on 5 product ratings on e-commerce, but it's not selling too much, its market share is low. I'll buy the brand and I will sell it. Doesn't work.
So you're saying roll-ups, the model is...
This string of pearls has not worked anywhere. I'm sorry to say this.
Even in India.
It will not work. Because the fundamental fact is, Sarthak, you buy a string of pearls, one in shampoo, one in soap, one in beauty, etc. The supply chains for the 6 are very different. If you have a string of pearls in the same category, you can still have commonality and scale advantage. There is no scale advantage. And that's why a lot of your D2C young people, and I talk to them and I coach them, they launch a product, it's successful, it comes to 50 crores. Then they start thinking of 4 other categories to add. Won't work.
Don't you think it's because, they're not seeing more depth in the market beyond 50 crores because they feel like they've catered to such a small niche, and to educate is going to take so long. The easiest way is to sell to your existing consumer and add another SKU, right?
Absolutely right.
But that sounds like common sense, and they should be doing it.
So it goes back to the first question I asked you. How big is the niche and what time will it take you to get there? So today I launch a lipstick. I finished lipstick. Oh, now I get bored of it after 50 crores. Okay, I will launch chips along with the same thing. Doesn't work.
No, but I don't think that is happening. I'm just thinking that...
That's exactly what's happening in many of your D2C people.
Can you give me a few examples?
No, I don't want to embarrass them.
So, okay, now we've spoken about unit economics. We know it's an 8 to 10 year play. Minimum, which really means that I can't imagine how many people will be able to bootstrap their way.
Absolutely right.
Through it. So,
or you need the right investors.
Yeah, which means you need an investor. Now, how would an investor evaluate today whether they can really get the kind of return they would want as a venture capitalist or a I would say an early PE? Because even if you want to get to say a 30 crore or a 40 crore revenue by yourself, literally the amount of working capital it will require from your end, an inventory of easily about 3 months worth, the amount of money it takes is crazy. So maybe not the first business to think of when you want to get into consumer, like when you want to start a business?
Yes. So what you said is absolutely correct. I think you must be clear which category or which niche you're getting into. Second is you must be clear which investors' money you're taking. Every investor will tell you we are here for the long haul, but most of them no one is. That's the truth.
That's the truth.
Okay, they might not like me saying it, but that's the truth. Okay, because globally, the life of a PE company is 6.4 years globally.
You mean PE company or a fund?
No,
PE, like
PE invested company. They flip it within 6.4 years.
I can imagine. Yes.
Okay, so which means you're having companies being flipped in 2 years, you're having companies being flipped in 8 years, etc.
Anyway, exit clauses today on term sheets are not beyond 5 years. So I mean,
Exactly.
you keep a buffer of a year, 2 years, just to be able to find the right opportunity, time the market.
Yeah. So the fact is, it takes time. Okay. If the investor is expecting to double his investment in a matter of 2 to 3 years, he's the wrong guy for you. So I think what an entrepreneur, somebody who's running a D2C business needs is what I call patient capital.
Correct.
People who are willing to stay with you for 5 to 10 years with a return of about 15%. If you're okay with that, then you stay. Otherwise, don't.
Don't you think that the degrowth for FMCG companies is a factor of the macroeconomic trend of, as they say, the K-shaped recovery, that most FMCG brands, you mentioned 40% cater to a price point lesser than 10 rupees, 10 rupees or lower, which means that the real growth of wealth and premiumization or consumption that is happening is possibly in the upper spoke of the K, which is where the FMCG companies are not even focusing, because they see that the overall market there is much lower compared to where they have distribution and what they're really catering to.
I just read the results this morning in a newspaper. E-commerce has grown 15% in the country. 15%. All aggregated category. A lot of it will be consumer goods. Okay. A yogurt brand grew thanks to Q-commerce last quarter 36%. So in any growth, you need to disaggregate growth, Sarthak, and say where are the pockets of growth, and am I getting it? So if the growth is happening at the top end, what stops all the FMCG companies to innovate at the top end and get more growth there? Show that. Nothing stops you.
But no, I have a question there. For example, these companies are so big that they need a certain scale of operation to really invest resources in building a product for a category, right?
Very good point. That's the exact problem, because they are not organized like that. For example, would Aadhaar be Aadhaar if it had been housed under the National Population Register? Answer is no. Would UPI have been UPI if it had been housed under RBI? The answer is no. That's the same problem FMCG companies have. You take a D2C team and you put it under the main mothership, it is bound to fail.
Because you're curbing their creativity and their agility.
Their thinking is completely different.
So do you think there will come a time where say these FMCG giants think, let's float another company which is agile, which has young management, let them do whatever they want, move fast, break things, let's see what sticks.
There are many examples of that already, yes. So if you want to be a D2C player, house it separately. Give them the freedom completely to do what they want. Don't lock them into your rules, grids and principles. Because the path to consumer purchase in D2C is dramatically different from the path to consumer purchase in the normal product. So if you don't understand the difference, you cannot maximize for it. That's the exact problem which is happening. All FMCG companies host 10, an FMCG company might have 25 digital guys. I was talking to somebody in HDFC Life the other day. They have 145 digital marketing. 145. You know why? All of BFSI is digital. The problem with the FMCG sector and its CEOs today is they're all talking the old language. Imagine if a bank told you today, I have 1,000 branches, you'll yawn. You know why? Branches don't matter in a digital world. That's the exact problem. FMCG guys tell you, I'm going to add 100,000 outlets. For what? The battle isn't digital. What are you adding physical outlets for? So you're still playing the old rules, the old game. You're still playing test match cricket, which is relevant for a particular body, when the D2C guys are playing T20. You need new skills. You need new shots. You need new bowling. Very different. Doesn't work like that.
I have so many more questions related to your experience, and I'd want to touch upon also what you saw at Pepsi. Do you think when you were there, you saw the competition between Pepsi and Coke was more brutal, and today Pepsi in India has decided that okay, maybe we can't compete in beverages or brand ourselves the way Coke is branded itself, and we should focus on other areas and other verticals where maybe we have more profits, which could be snacks and not necessarily beverages?
Okay, so I would say, step back. I mentioned to you, the Coke versus Pepsi wars are 1980s. When Roger Enrico wrote, the other guy blinked, John Scully wrote From Pepsi to Apple, etc. All these wonderful books. And, each guy has written his own book about it, okay. By the time I joined Pepsi, both Coke and Pepsi were irrelevant to the Indian consumer. And I'm saying this upfront.
And when was this, sorry?
2013. Okay, 12,
Okay.
13. They're
Even
irrelevant.
Coke was irrelevant?
They both, because you go to your house, you go to anybody's house, you open the refrigerator, nobody stocks soft drinks. The need state of soft drinks is on a hot day, is with spicy food or mixed with liquor. That's it. They're no longer cool. The housewife does not give a soft drink to her children.
Correct.
Game's up. It's no longer cool. As simple as that. So all these wonderful campaigns of the past, etc., were the past. Nothing else. So one of the first things I did was I called Venki of Coke, the CEO, and I said, I want to meet you, Venki, Venkatesh Kini. I went and met him and said, I give you my word that I'm not going to diss on you or your company in public or in media ever. And he said, I give you my word too, Shiv. So we were very good friends. And even his successor, KK, was a very good friend of mine, and I gave him the same offer. I actually invited KK to the PepsiCo office, and he came and saw it, and people were shocked. The point I want to make is, you fight in the consumer's mind. You don't fight with each other. And that's a simple lesson lost on CEOs. Okay, I can be great friends with you, and both of us can fight in the marketplace.
What you said is very interesting. Do you think it's only possible in companies where CEOs are different than founders? And I say this from the lens of a new D2C founder who's trying to build a brand in a small niche where if he gets a competitor, he's eating out of a massive opportunity because the market in itself is so small. And of course, that animosity will come in even personally. I mean, you can't expect small companies to be...
Very good question that you ask. For example, if you are a founder, a D2C founder, you work in an ecosystem. You must build as many partnerships in the ecosystem as possible. So if you are both fighting against noise, you need to be friends with each other. The stupidest thing you can do is to treat each other as enemies. Because you want to grow the pie. You're not killing each other for one slice of the pie. That's a big mistake D2C owners are making. Don't do that.
Okay. I'd love to know, you mentioned integrity is really important as a fundamental, in terms of quality. When you're hiring people in the companies that you've been a part of, how do you test for integrity? I'm always falling short of ideas on what question to ask to test it. Or is it the concept of hire fast, fire fast, get someone on board, test them out for about 6 weeks, see how it's fitting in the culture, and if it doesn't fit, let them go?
But to your question on integrity check, ask one question in the interview. And that question is, give me an example of the time you failed and what lessons have you learned from it. I've found 90% of the people, they'll give an example of failure, but they'll blame the boss for it. They'll not blame themselves for it. There was this girl I interviewed many years ago from L'Oreal. We hired her on the spot. She said, Shiv, I thought my category brand will go gangbusters if I had Aishwarya Rai. And I did that, and it didn't work. She could well have said, I was a brand manager, it's a marketing manager who took the decision. She didn't say it. You have to be honest about it. Only when you are honest about your failures and you don't sugarcoat them, then you become a better person and a better marketer and a better leader. Ask that question and see whom they blame.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shiv. I think this has been very, very valuable. I've learned a lot of things, and I think this is definitely going to add a lot of value to our audience as well. So thank you for making time.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
I love reading Shiv's posts on LinkedIn and thoroughly enjoyed his books, The Art of Management as well as The Right Choice. I hope this chat brought you some new insights into the minds of the Indian consumer. And of course, do share it with someone who may need it. This is Founder's Office with Sarthak Ahuja.